Sharon Wadley is in the building.
Okay, yes, man. Sharon Wadley, man. So look, we just want to get into your story, man. So let's bring it from the beginning, man. Can you tell me where you was born and?
Okay, well, I was born right here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My great grandmother raised me until I was about in the 4th grade, and I moved and left and went to Macon, Georgia, for a few years. If I may, my mother and her boyfriend at the time, they left me with my great grandmother, and they told me that they would come back and get me when they got settled, quote unquote. And it was taking them too long to come back and get me, and so they would always send money and money orders and stuff like this, but I began to write them and asking my mama with my grandmama unknowingly that I was saying to her, when are you all coming to get me, because I was just a young girl wanting and needing her mother. Well, I didn't want to hurt my grandmother because she loved me so much, and so I kept that part away from her, but I really was just wanting that time with my mother. So my grandmother was talking about even hiring a lawyer because she thought that they were trying to take me from her. She just had that much love for me. So eventually they did come. I went to Macon, Georgia in the 4th grade. When I did come back to Chattanooga, I was in the 9th grade, a teenager at that point. That's kind of like when it all began.
So you stayed in Chattanooga from birth to around like 8, 9 years old.
Yes, around about 9 years old.
Okay, then you moved to Macon, Georgia.
Macon, Georgia.
And you spend the end of your elementary years in your at that time y'all called it junior high school. You know, yes. I'm a little younger than you. We called it middle school. But yes. You spent those years in Macon, Georgia.
I did. Okay. I did. I came back to Chattanooga in the 9th grade. I was 15 years old.
Okay, and was that still junior high back then? I know.
The 9th grade was junior high.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
See, it changed by the time I got to high school.
It was not high school until the 10th grade.
Okay, so you came right at the end of junior high.
Right at the end of junior high.
How was your transition back into Chattanooga?
Well, my mother, and at that time he had married my mother, and so he was no longer her boyfriend. He was my stepfather, and he was a good stepfather. You know, he loved me in every sense of the word. You could not tell that I wasn't his biological child. But at some point, he and my mom had their differences, and it was to the point where they just couldn't make it anymore. He had told us to come back to Chattanooga and find somewhere to stay, and he would later join us. And of course, he never did. And I kind of feel like that was his way of getting rid of my mama, really, when you look at it. But anyway, we came back. But if I could just backtrack that year before, when I was 14 years old is when I hit my first joint, which